hit the ground running, like literally, I run it, didn't know anything. I mean, I was ignorance on fire, right? I mean, they said it's better to be ignorance on fire than knowledge on ice. You know, analyzing. I'm a pretty analytical person, but I was able to turn it off on my first couple weeks in the business and make some things happen. And so they said make a list. I made a list. They said make a list of 100. I made my list of 70. Right? They said 100. Right? I wish I'd have made a list of 100. Because of based on what I know of what happened with the 70, I can only imagine what would have happened with 30 extra people going through what I'm about to share with you. But I went and running. I contacted and invited everybody that I could. I had a private business reception in my first 4 days in the business. That's a huge note. I had a private business reception my first 4 days in the business, not my first 40 days in the business. 4 days, right? And that turned into an extra $500 bucks. I earned my first $500 in network marketing because of that. I didn't know anything about the industry. People say sometimes the only people that ever have success in this industry are people who were in the industry before. I didn't know what network marketing was before Prepaid Legal. Never heard of it at all. And so, so that was the first $500 bucks. And then I didn't know anything else. So guess what we did with the brand new people that started? We made their list, right? We had their private business reception. My first month, just helping them, I made $2,000 total that first month. And that opened my eyes. The system works. And so fast forward, within a 3-year period of time, because in the beginning I'm running around trying to figure this out. It worked so well that first month, I stopped doing it to analyze and figure out what happened. And if you want to go broke for a long time, I highly recommend you do the same thing. So here's what my story looked like. If this was a graph, it was and then my learning curve hit. Right? I was an amateur. I didn't know what I was doing, trying to figure it out. I didn't even know what was working. So I started analyzing, and I made a little bit of money along the way. I still, don't get me wrong, I still made an extra $12,000, that first year. But it could have been a whole lot more if I wasn't in analytical mode. But guess what? The average person, it takes about 3 years to have a full-time income that you can count on, a solid full-time income. Everybody with me? And the experts recommend not even quitting your job unless you have 3 years experience, no matter how much you're making. And so I was on track. Everybody with me? So here's what happened. 2002, the team started to grow. So within that time period, I started figuring some things out to stop doing, like thinking. Right? And I started to understand the system a little bit better. And all of a sudden, it started to accumulate. The team started to grow. I started to get 10 people plugged in with me on a weekly basis. Then one of them had 10 people plugged in from their group, and then another person had their 10 plugged in. It was like 30 of us. And boom, I had an infrastructure for executive director in place. And I wasn't focused on going executive director, which was a big mistake as well. If you don't want to be executive director right away, definitely don't set the goal for executive. Some of y'all get there later. If you want to get executive, set the goal now. Begin with the end in mind. You're going to hear that interwoven throughout everything we share tonight. Now's the time to go executive. It doesn't have to take years. In fact, it never takes years to become executive director. It typically takes 30 to 90 days from the time that you believe and you want it, and you make the decision and the commitment to get it done. 30 to 90 days. Just think 30 to 90 days from now. You're sitting at the table. Executive director. Minimum wage at executive, $4,000 a month. Overrides. I don't know what minimum wage is right now in California. Well, who can use just an extra $4,000 in overrides? Okay, yeah. Can y'all imagine that?
Yep. Yeah.
If you can't imagine it, one of my goals is for you to be able to see yourself as executive director before we leave tonight. Everybody with me? because it's right there, especially when you got a coach. My leadership was retired when I came in. Like retired, like $250,000 a year in his sleep, retired. Traveling the world, Mexico, hanging out for months, retired. Right? So I had to figure it out. That's one of the reasons why I was going through my growth curve. The best thing ever happened to me. Best thing that ever happened, me having to go through the curve. Because everything you've gone through, I've been through already. Everything you've done wrong, I've probably done wrong already. And everything you're thinking about doing wrong, for those who haven't been here long enough to do it wrong, I can warn you not to do it before you do it. So you can do what we did in half the time or less. Oh, y'all don't understand. Come on. So, anyway, I went executive director in 2002, 22 years old. And at the time I was working at a government job, GSA, out in Crystal City, Virginia. I was on the East Coast. And my overrides with prepaid legal, part-time, were $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a month. At 22. I thought I was rich. I went from a negative bank balance when I started. I needed extra money to get to zero. You haven't done that, you haven't lived either, right? But after executive director, I had 3 bank accounts with commas. Oh, y'all don't understand. For me, I know y'all had that all your whole lives. I know, California. But for me, I mean, that was life-changing for me. You know, I was giving more at my church. I was supporting youth ministry. I mean, I went on vacation from my job. Who can use a good vacation? I never went back. Good vacation ever. And so that was literally, we haven't worked since 2002. Haven't worked a 9 to 5. Never will again because we didn't need it anymore. What I'm sharing that to share this, the simple skills that you're learning here in the small weekly time commitment, 5-10 hours a week, you know, to learn some skills. I had someone ask me that, I remember when I first started, I shared this information with her. I showed her the video. I shared the vision. And she opted out. That's her choice, right? And years later, she went on to graduate from college, and I didn't. I transferred schools from Howard Business School to Prepaid Legal University to learn real business, right? Can I say that? Is that okay? Yeah. You know, from the business owner standpoint, not getting a job for a business owner standpoint. And we ran into each other years later, and she said, "I heard you were retired." I said, "Oh, stop." And she said, "I know it's true." I said, "Oh, stop." And she said, "No, I just want to know one thing. How in the world is it that I graduated, I'm struggling to find a job, I'm doing what I used to love to do, but now I'm doing it because I have to, and you're already retired from your 9 to 5. How is that possible?" And I had to think for a second. We're sitting down at a Quiznos. Anybody been to Washington, D.C. before? On U Street, Washington, D.C. Quiznos, right across from Ben's Chili Bowl. And I thought about it, and I could only give her one honest answer. And the only answer I could share with her was that I invested 10 hours a week for 3 years to learn how. And she didn't. That's it. That's it. That was the only difference between the plan that she followed and the plan that I followed. Now, did she have the same 10 hours a week that I had? But we chose to do something different with that 10 hours a week. I'm sure she watched some television programs with her 10 hours a week. I quit watching TV. TV was not adding any value to my future, so I gave it up.